اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ اشہد ان محمدا رسول اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اشہد ان محمدا رسول اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اشہد ان امیر المؤمنین وامام المتقین علی ولی اللہ وصی رسول اللہ وخلیفتہ بلا فصل اللہم صلی علی محمد وآلہ اشہد ان امیر المؤمنین وامام المتقین علی حجت اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآلہ حی علی الصلاة حی علی الصلاة حی علی الفلاح حی علی الفلاح حی علی خیر العمل حی علی خیر العمل اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر لا الہ الا اللہ لا الہ الا اللہ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم اللہم اجعل قلبی بارا وعمری ثارا وعیشی قارا ورزقی دارا وولاد برارا واجعلنی عند قبر نبیک محمدا صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم مستقرا وقرارا برحمتک یا ارحم الراحمین اللہم
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله اللهم صل أشهد أن محمد رسول الله اللهم صل اشهد ان امیر المومنین و امام المتقین علی ولی اللہ ووصی رسول اللہ وخلیفتہ بلا فصل اللہم صلی علی محمد اشهد ان امیر المومنین و امام المتقین علی حجت اللہ حی علی الصلاة حی علی الصلاة حی علی الفلاح حی علی الفلاح حی علی خیر العمل حی علی خیر العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر لا الہ الا اللہ لا حول ولا قوة الا باللہ اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم استغفر اللہ ربی واتوب الیہ یا صاحب الزمان اللہ اکبر بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمدللہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین اہدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم انا اعطیناک الکوثر فصل لربک وانحر ان شانئک هو الابتر اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. سمع اللہ لمن حمیدہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہ اکبر. استغفر ربی و اتوب الیہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہ اکبر. بحول اللہ و قوتہ اقوم و اقعد. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین. ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین. اہدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. قل هو اللہ احد اللہ الصمد لم یلد ولم یولد ولم یکن له کفوا احد. کذالک اللہ ربی. اللہ اکبر. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد وعجل فرجہم ولن اعداءہم اجمعین. اللہم لن قتلۃ الحسین و اولادہ و اصحابہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. سمع اللہ لمن حمیدہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہ اکبر. استغفر ربی و اتوب الیہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہ اکبر. الحمدللہ. اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد وتقبل شفاعتہ وارفع درجتہ. بحول اللہ و قوتہ اقوم و اقعد. سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ. سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ. سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ. استغفر ربی. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. سمع اللہ لمن حمیدہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہ اکبر. استغفر ربی و اتوب الیہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. اللہم ارزقنا شفاعت الحسین یوم الورود. اللہ اکبر. الحمدللہ. اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. السلام علیکم ایھا النبی و رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علینا وعلی عباد اللہ الصالحین. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللہ اکبر. اللہ اکبر. اللہ اکبر. اللہم صلی علی محمد. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ان اللہ وملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی یا ایھا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم سبحان من لا یعتدی علی اہل مملکتی سبحان من لا یاخذ اہل الارض بالوان العذاب سبحان الرؤوف الرحیم اللہم اجعل فی قلبی نورا وبصرا وفہما وعلما انک علی کل شیء قدیر اللہم صل علی اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ اشہد ان محمد رسول اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد اشہد ان محمد رسول اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد اشہد ان امیر المومنین و امام المتقین علی ولی اللہ و وصی رسول اللہ و خلیفتہ بلا فصل اللہم صلی علی محمد اشہد ان امیر المومنین و امام المتقین علی حجۃ اللہ اللہم صلی علی محمد حی علی الصلاۃ حی علی الصلاۃ حی علی الفلاح حی علی الفلاح حی علی خیر العمل حی علی خیر العمل قد قامت الصلاۃ قد قامت الصلاۃ اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر لا الہ الا اللہ لا حول ولا قوة الا باللہ العلی العظیم اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم استغفر اللہ ربی واتوب الیہ اللہ اکبر بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین اہدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم انا اعطیناک الکوثر فصل لربک ونحر ان شانئک هو الابتر اللہ اکبر سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم وبحمدہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد سمیع اللہ لمن حمیدہ اللہ اکبر سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العالی وبحمدہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اللہ اکبر استغفر ربی واتوب الیہ اللہ اکبر سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العالی وبحمدہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اللہ اکبر بحول اللہ وقوتہ یقوم واقعد بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمد للہ رب العالمین الرحمن الرحیم مالک یوم الدین ایاک نعبد و ایاک نستعین اہدنا الصراط المستقیم صراط الذین انعمت علیہم غیر المغضوب علیہم ولا الضالین بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم قل هو اللہ احد اللہ الصمد لم یلد ولم یولد ولم یکن له کفوا احد کذالک اللہ ربی اللہ اکبر اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجہم یا اللہ یا رحمان یا رحیم یا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبی علی دینک رب صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اللہم لنقاتل فاطمة الظاہرہ سلام اللہ علیہا اللہ اکبر سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم وبحمدہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد سمیع اللہ لمن حمیدہ اللہ اکبر سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العالی وبحمدہ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد اللہ اکبر استغفر ربی واتوب الیہ. اللہ اکبر.
سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اللہ اکبر. الحمدللہ. اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد وتقبل شفاعتہ وارفع درجتہ بحول اللہ وقوتہ اقوم واقعد. سبحان اللہ والحمدللہ سبحان اللہ والحمدللہ سبحان اللہ والحمدللہ استغفر. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. سمیع اللہ لمن حمیدہ. اللہ اکبر.
سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اللہ اکبر. استغفر ربی واتوب الیہ. اللہ اکبر.
سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اللہ اکبر. بحول اللہ وقوتہ اقوم واقعد. سبحان اللہ والحمدللہ ولا الہ الا اللہ. سبحان اللہ والحمدللہ ولا الہ الا اللہ. سبحان اللہ والحمدللہ ولا الہ الا اللہ. استغفر اللہ. اللہ اکبر. سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العظیم و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد وعجل فرجہم. سمیع اللہ لمن حمیدہ. اللہ اکبر.
سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
اللہ اکبر. استغفر ربی واتوب الیہ. اللہ اکبر.
سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان اللہ سبحان ربی العلی و بحمدہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. یا رب الحسین بحق الحسین اشف صدر الحسین بظہور الحجہ.
اللہ اکبر. الحمدللہ. اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ وحدہ لا شریک لہ واشہد ان محمدا عبدہ ورسولہ. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. السلام علیکم ایھا النبی ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علینا وعلی عباد اللہ الصالحین. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللہ اکبر. اللہ اکبر. اللہ اکبر. اللہم صلی علی. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم ان اللہ وملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی یا ایھا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما اللہم انی اسألک بحق محمد وعلی وفاطمہ والحسن والحسین وصاحب الزمان ادرکنی ولا تہلکنی اللہم عجل ولیک الفرج اللہم ادخل علی اہل القبور السرور اللہم اغنی کل فقیر اللہم اشب کل جائع اللہم اقض کل عریان اللہم اقض دین کل مدین اللہم فرج عن کل مکروب اللہم رد کل غریب اللہم فک کل اسیر اللہم اصلح کل فاسد من امور المسلمین اللہم اشف کل مریض اللہم سد فقرنا بغناک اللہم غیر سوء حالنا بحسن حالک اللہم اقض عنا الدین واغننا من الفقر انک علی کل شیء قدیر اللہم صلی علی محمد. السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ والارواح التی حلت بفنائک علیکم منی جمیعا سلام اللہ ابدا ما بقیت وبقی اللیل والنہار ولا جعل الاخرات من لزیارتکم. السلام علی الحسین وعلی علی ابن الحسین وعلی اولاد الحسین وعلی اصحاب الحسین. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا مولانا یا غریب الغرباء. السلام علیکم یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام علیکم شمس الشموس. السلام علیکم انیس النفوس. السلام علیکم المدفون برزیتوس. السلام علیکم مغیظ الشیعۃ والزوار فی یوم الجزا. السلام علیکم سلطان العرب والعجم. السلام علیکم ابو الحسن علی بن موسیٰ الرضا ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. السلام علیکم یا مولانا یا صاحب العصر والزمان. الامان 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 من فتنۃ الزمان والمکان. السلام علیکم خلیفۃ الرحمن. السلام علیکم شریک القرآن. السلام علیکم مظہر الایمان. السلام علیکم امام زماننا اجل اللہ تعالی فرجک وسہل اللہ تعالی مخرجک وظہورک. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.
برائے سید الشہداء حسین ابن علی بلند الصلوات.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Request everyone to start moving towards their designated halls. Again, the English Majlis will continue here in the new hall, and the Urdu Majlis will be in the Legacy Hall. We request everyone to start making their way to their halls so we may start both Majlises. Thank you.
صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. یہ ختم شام آنے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شام آنے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. تمہارا دوست ہے تنہا، تمہارا دوست ہے تنہا، حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شاہ آنے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. شہید کیسے ہوا وہ بتاؤ گے آ کر، تم حال مسلم میں بے کس سناؤ گے آ کر. رقیہ تک کہتی ہے رستا، رقیہ تک کہتی ہے رستا، حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. لگاؤ اس سے بھی اندازے میری غربت کے، جہاں پہ بین علی لکھنا تھا وہاں میں نے دیا ہے ماں کا حوالہ، دیا ہے ماں کا حوالہ. حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. بتا رہا تھا اسے کوئی بھی نہیں ہے میرا، تو بولی ثانی زہرا حبیب آئے گا. ہے اس کو تم پہ بھروسہ، ہے اس کو تم پہ بھروسہ، حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. وہ جب یہ سنتی ہیں کوفے سے آ رہے ہیں شکیم، تو پوچھتی ہیں ہمارا بھی آئے گا کوئی. دعائیں دے گی سکینہ، دعائیں دے گی سکینہ، حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. گوارا کر نہیں سکتی حسین کی غیرت، تمہاری زوجہ کی چادر کو لوٹ لے امت. تم اس کو چھوڑ کے کوفہ، تم اس کو چھوڑ کے کوفہ، حبیب آ جاؤ. یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا حبیب آ جاؤ. مجھے ہے یاد وہ لمحہ جو رب کی مرضی سے تم ہو کے زندہ میری باتیں سننے آئے تھے. بولا رہا ہوں دوبارہ، بولا رہا ہوں دوبارہ، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا، حبیب آ جاؤ، در بطول دوبارہ جلایا جائے گا، تمہارے دوست پہ خنجر چلایا جائے گا، نہیں ہے وقت زیادہ، نہیں ہے وقت زیادہ، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا، حبیب آ جاؤ، چمکتے چاند کی ہم کو بھی دید ہو جائے، تم آؤ تو میرے بچوں میں عید ہو جائے، بہت اداس ہے کنبہ، بہت اداس ہے کنبہ، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ خط نہیں اس بہنوں کی آرزو سمجھو، ہمارے لفظوں کو زینب کی گفتگو سمجھو، بہن یہ کہتی ہے بھیا، بہن یہ کہتی ہے بھیا، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا، حبیب آ جاؤ، بہن نے اس کو تکلم جو باہی سمجھا تھا، پکار شام غریبا میں ثانیہ زہرا، ہمارا لوٹا ہے پردہ، ہمارا لوٹا ہے پردہ، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا، حبیب آ جاؤ، یہ ختم شاہ نے لکھا، حبیب آ جاؤ، صلوات۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد، بارے دیگر صلوات۔
صلی علی محمد محمد۔
چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی حسین، عمر بھر کرتا رہوں تیری ثنا خوانی حسین، چاہتا ہے جی یہی ہے نور یزدانی حسین، عظمت کعبہ بھی ہے اب اس کی عظمت پر نثار، عظمت کعبہ بھی ہے اب اس کی عظمت پر نثار تو نے کل جس خاک پر رکھی تھی پیشانی حسین چاہتا ہے جی اے نور یزدانی کیسے ممکن تھا کہ حرف آتا کوئی اسلام پر کیسے ممکن تھا کہ حرف آتا کوئی اسلام پر کر رہے تھے خود شریعت کی نگہبانی حسین چاہتا ہے یہی ہر طرف سے ظلمتوں نے گھیر رکھا تھا مگر ہر طرف سے ظلمتوں نے گھیر رکھا تھا مگر تو نے کم ہونے نہ دی ایمان کی تابانی حسین چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی چلتے چلتے یک بیک قاتل کا خنجر رک گیا چلتے چلتے یک بیک قاتل کا خنجر رک گیا پڑھ رہے تھے زیر لب آیات قرآنی حسین چاہتا ہے جی یہی اے نور یزدانی جل رہا تھا آگ میں خیموں کی جب زینب کا دل دیکھتی تھی تیری جانب گھر کی ویرانی دیکھتی تھی تیری جانب گھر کی ویرانی حسین چاہتا ہے یہی اسباب اے معجز سکون زندگی ہے یہی اسباب اے معجز سکون زندگی مجلس و ماتم محافل مرثیہ خانی حسین مجلس و ماتم محافل مرثیہ خانی حسین چاہتا ہے جی یہی صلوات محمد فاتحہ اللہم صلی علی اے مومنو حسین سے مقتل قریب ہے آخر ہے عمر منزل اول قریب ہے شہر مدینہ دور ہے جنگل قریب ہے، زہرا کا چاند چھپتا ہے بادل قریب، زہرا کا چاند چھپتا ہے بادل قریب لینے کے واسطے ملک الموت آتے ہیں، مقتل کو اپنے پاؤں سے شبیر جا، مقتل کو اپنے پاؤں سے شبیر جا، القصہ صبح منزلے آخر عیاں ہوئی، لیکن یہ صبح سبت نبی کو کہاں ہوئی، جس جا سواری روکے ناگے رواں ہوئی، حیران سپاہ قصروں کو نو مکاں ہوئی، 6 گھوڑے بدلے دوشے نبی کے سوار نے، لیکن قدم بڑھایا نہ ایک راہوا، لیکن قدم بڑھایا نہ ایک راہوا، جنبش جو مرکبوں میں نہ پائی حسین نے، ایک مشت خاک جھک کے اٹھائی حسین نے، خود سونگھی اور بہن کو سنگھائی حسین نے، ہمشیر کی سنی ہے دہائی حسین نے، ہے یہ خاک پھینکو میری جان جاتی ہے، بھیا تمہارے خون کی بو سے آ، بھیا تمہارے خون کی بو سے آ، عباس کو پکارنا آگے علم بڑھاؤ، منزل یہی ہے چھاؤنی پردیسیوں کی چھاؤ، ہم شکل مصطفیٰ کو ندا دی بڑھے نہ جاؤ، بیٹا قنات گھیرو سراچے یہیں لگاؤ، غرے کو تو ہوا ہے ہمارا سفر تمام، 10ویں کو ہوگا فاطمہ زہرا کا گھر، 10ویں کو ہوگا فاطمہ زہرا کا گھر، مسند پہ یا بٹھا کے بہن کو شہ خدا، کرسی بچھا کے بیٹھے قریب حرم سرا، تے دست بستہ گرد جوانان با وفا، لے لے کے نظر آئے زمیندار کربلا، استاد فرت غم سے جو شبیر ہو گئے، نظروں پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے بغل گیر ہو، نظروں پہ ہاتھ رکھ کے بغل گیر ہو گئے، بٹھلا کے پہلوؤں میں انہیں یہ کیا بیان، اے کربلائیوں میں تمہارا ہوں مہمان، ظالم مجھے ستاتے ہیں جاتا ہوں میں جہاں، بیچو جو یہ زمین تو چند دن رہوں یہاں، رہنے سے میرے سب یہاں آرام پائیں گے، خاک شفا تمہاری زمین کو خاک شفا تمہاری، خاک شفا تمہاری زمین کو بنا آئیں گے، صلوات اللہ۔
Salawat par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As we enter the third majalis of this series, the series with Moulana Sayyid Ali Abbas Razawi will continue until Ashura, inshallah. A few important announcements. One, specifically right now, and this was also a problem yesterday, please keep your children with you. Right now there's a number of kids outside running around the parking lot. This was a problem yesterday as well. We are trying to create a safe environment, so please request everyone to keep their children with them, keep them in their sight. When kids are outside, this creates a dangerous environment or potential dangerous environment that could create issues, and that's not what we want here. So please, if you don't see your child right now, please try to figure out where they are and try to bring them to you. Can I get a loud salawat? I request everyone to move as close as possible. I mean, mashallah, so the community continues to grow, and we continue. I mean, this was our expansion, and we're growing out of it. And you could see, you know, mashallah, we have a lot of people coming in, especially a lot of people that came in towards the middle or the end of the Majlis yesterday, and they didn't have much room. So thank you all for doing that very quickly. You know, I don't want to take up too much time, as I know it is a weeknight, and we want to get to the Majlis that we're all here for. I just want to make one very, very short appeal to you. Like I said, this hall is catering to a lot of mu'mineen. We have on these days over 2,000 people that are attending within 4 different halls. It takes a toll on the building, it takes a toll on the community, it takes a toll financially in general. So we ask you all, if possible, please donate. Your donations in these days will go towards Ayam-e-Aza in general, to keep our center going, to keep our high caliber speakers like Moulana here, and to bring them in to be able to serve all of you Azadar. So we are asking, usually we ask $500 from 72. Things have changed these days. As we know, things are getting more expensive. We're asking $500 from 313 of you. 313, that will equal right around $150,000. That's our goal. By Ashura, we raise $150,000, inshallah. Can I get a loud salawat? I want to thank again Moulana Sayyid Ali Abbas Razawi for gracing us with his presence. Without further ado, I'd like to request him to come to the member and address the Majlis. Salawat for Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، كافها يا عين صاد، صدق الله العلي العظيم. Our series of discussions go into its third night. Yesterday we were looking at the impact of Sayyid al-Shuhada in our own lives. This particular verse, which I recite, and I have been reciting for the last 3 nights, Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad, within it there's an entire universe. And sometimes the most powerful of things are very small. In this particular case, these huruf are revealed. Within these huruf is Ism A'zam. There's a reason why these huruf have come in this particular surah that has a nisbah to both Zachariah and Mary. Both Zachariah and Mary, if you look at it, both of their children came very quickly. Jesus, for example, in our tradition says that within 9 hours, grew 9 months. Zachariah in 6 months, in the same way Sayyid al-Shuhada in 6 months came into the world. And this is why there's a particular tradition that says that there were a number of children, 4. As children we gave them hikmah, we gave them wisdom. We gave them wisdom. Those 4 individuals, one of them is Zachariah's son, John the Baptist, Yahya. The other one's Isa ibn Maryam. And the other 2 are Imam Hassan and Hussein. As children you can see Imam Hassan and Hussein have nisbah to the Anbiya. You know, each direction you look at, the Prophet's giving certain traditions in relation to them. Either they're like Shabbur and Shabbir, right? And here Shabbur and Shabbir meaning who? The children of Harun. In the same way here there's give another nisbah in terms of Yahya, in terms of Isa. Basically you're seeing parallels between Bani Israel and the Anbiya of Bani Israel with Imam Hassan and Hussein. It's very powerful. In the next couple of nights we'll look at it, why that's important. You don't find that anywhere else. And in particular you don't find any of this kind of ideology or terminologies within other denominations of Islam. But when it comes to Shiism itself, there is a stark parallel between our Imams and in particular those prophets of the Bani Israel. And this is why they say that in Akhir al-Zaman, the Shias of Akhir al-Zaman are exactly like the Bani Israel of before. If you can understand them, you can understand your hal in this Akhir al-Zaman, in these last days. So we'll go into that and we'll delve into that a bit later. But this is why you'll see that there's about 6,600 verses of the Quran. At least 900 of them deal with Bani Israel. If you don't know the backstory of Bani Israel, you're not going to understand the Quran. You can read it, you're going to go through it, but it's not going to make sense to you. Because a lot of these verses go back to something which you may not have experienced and Islam's culture may not have experienced. But 1/6 of your Quran deals with Bani Israel, deals with a story that didn't take place in Arabia, deals with something which is parallel, and in particular our situation. So all the miracles that you're seeing and all the situations that Bani Israel are put into, there are parallels of that within us in Akhir al-Zaman. We'll go into it further at another date. But what I'm here to say for this particular discussion is this, that sometimes Allah gives even a letter, a harf or huruf. Within these huruf, within these letters, within these alphabets, are encapsulated pretty much an entire universe. If you could recite a salawat and come forward, please. And one more salawat. I might give a couple of seconds for people who are trickling and just to trickle in. You could recite another salawat and allow them to trickle. more salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
One more salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
If I could just say, people who are, obviously they're going to trickle in for the next 10 minutes. If you can come 5 minutes earlier, makes it easy. Because if I'm stopping every 7-10 minutes, it's going to disturb you and it's going to disturb my flow as well. So if by 9:45 you can trickle in, it's easier for me, it will be easier for you then. The flow doesn't stop and we can go directly into what we want to say. Otherwise what will happen is by the 9th of Muharram we've not finished what we wanted to. Could you recite another salawat, please?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So within these huruf, there's an entire universe, as we said. Because it contains Isma Adam. Isma Adam is like the core, the batin of the universe. It's like the batin of creation. And for us to understand it is important. But here I want to link Isma Adam to one thing. Isma Adam to guidance. Within this Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sad encapsulates Karbala and the meaning of Karbala itself. We looked at it on the first night. But what's important here is this. That know that Sayyidul Shuhada takes a human being on their Mi'raj. But the way that he takes him is through the valley of Ishq. Jazb, or becoming majzoob with Allah, is to do with love. Is to do with this Ishq that comes for Allah. Mystics are on their pathway. 99% of them are slowly going stage by stage by stage, unraveling themselves to get there. Why? Because you've got to prepare your batin. Your inside has to be prepared. It's like when you go to the gym, you can't just stack 500 kilos or 500 pounds, let's say, in one go. What Ishq of Sayyidul Shuhada does, it allows you to stack 500 pounds of Allah. Immediately you can do that. Why? There's Ishq there. Your entire wujud becomes fani. You see, Wilayat of Ali is like this. Wilayat of Ali is, if you take a cold piece of, for example, metal, you put the metal into the molten lava, what happens? From that dark, cold piece, all of a sudden it becomes soft and it takes the entire qualities of the molten. When it comes out, it stops being what it was before, it takes a brand new personality. Ishq of Ali is like that. Ali takes you into the furnace of Allah's Zat and he takes you out again. But when you go into that furnace, your entire Zat changes. Now that when you come out, everything that you're reflecting from the inside at the Asma al-Husna of Allah. So that's what Amir al-Mu'mineen does. Because Ali's been there. He's gone and he's done the journey, he's come out. When Ali's come out of the journey, what is Amir al-Mu'mineen? When Ali walks, Rahman, Rahim, Ghafoor, Kareem. And when he goes into the battlefield, Jabbar, Mutakabbir, all of these asma of Allah and sifat of Allah flowing from his Zat. Why? Because he's been taken into the furnace and he's come out again. That's what he wants to take you. Wilayah takes you there. Everybody else comes to the door. Amir al-Mu'mineen takes you in. And when he takes you in, there's no fear there. Otherwise you fear, right? You see the fire, you fear. You become like Ibrahim. When Ibrahim is being chucked into the fire, there's an entire discussion. When Musa goes in front of Pharaoh, Musa shakes. But Ibrahim, when he's being chucked, there's no shaking there. Why? Ulama said because of this. From the dhurri of Ibrahim comes Ali ibn Abi Talib, not from the dhurri of Musa. You notice that this nur is there, chucked into the fire, the nur of wilayah, there's Muhammad and Ali in the back of Ibrahim. So when he's chucked, there's nothing that moves. What happens? Kuni bardan wa salama. So in the same way, that's what you have. As believers, you have an edge. That edge that you have, that spiritual edge that you have, is that nur that comes from Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is what, don't ever underestimate yourself. This is why it's important. Look, at the end of the day, we could sit here for years and talk about different things. My son doesn't pray, my son doesn't fast, my son doesn't do this. And people always say, could you add this, could you add this, could you add this? And at the end of it, we could sit over 360 days talking about different things. Let me give you the solution, it's very easy. The solution for this is this. If you can instill in your children the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, everything else takes care of itself. Why? Because the wilayat's like a light. In effect, what it does is this light begins to shine. And when it begins to shine, it shows you the pathway itself. Because look, we are in the same situation as post Karbala. There were two things that take place. As we said, inhiraf in the deen and inhiraf in akhlaq. What does that mean? Just to quickly translate, inhiraf in deen means this, that there's so much najasat which has been put into the deen. In the time of Imam Zain al-Abidin, you saw it. This is why there were certain movements that took place. Imam remained quiet and he taught through the way of dua. But today, when there's no Imam physically there, your spiritual connection to the Imam is there. And yes, the Imam guides under the cloud of ghaiba. From behind the curtains, Imam is guiding. But remember, you're seeing every year there's a new fitna that rises. Realizing this, the biggest institution that we have is the Majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Because throughout history, it's this Majlis that realigns our people. You'll notice, people who don't come in the entire year come when it comes to the 10 days of Muharram. And that person who has nothing to do with deen will come on the day of Ashra as well. There's this link that Sayyid al-Shuhada has, that he brings people. In 10 days he can change you. Now let me rectify that. Husayn ibn Ali changed a hur within half a day. Hur that today, if you were to, today, forget Ashura, before Ashura, on the 2nd of Muharram, if you were to ask people where hur is, you'd say hell. By the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein changes them. What does Imam Hussein then do? Imam Hussein makes people into gold. It's kimia, the way that he does it, alchemy. He knows the alchemy of the soul. He knows how to change your soul. Even if 1,000 years Hur repented, Hur would never have become Hur. He would never have been free. He would have been in shackles there. Would have been in shackles. What does Imam Hussein do? Imam Hussein is that person who penetrates your heart. If there's anything pure inside of you, pulls it out. That's what Imam Hussein does. And this is why to come is very important. You know, people ask, why is the emphasis there to come to the Majlis? You see, as a collective group that you're gathered, there's more than 40 of you here. There's a particular barakah which is coming. And barakah is not obvious. But if you remember, maybe last year I explained this in passing. What does barakah mean? Barakah, Mubarak. Why is Eid a day of you saying to each other, Eid Mubarak, Mabruk, Tabarruk, Barakah? What is all of this? The easy translation is blessing. But that's not the case. It's not just blessing. Let me explain this. I've explained it before, but there's a lot of people who weren't here when I explained it. Let me explain it again. Allama Tabatabai brings 4 different points for what barakah is. I'll give you an example. Example is as you walk into the library, there's 2,000 books there. One of those books which is in the library is the Quran. The Quran looks exactly the same as every other book. Therefore, the first thing is this. Barakah is unassuming. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil mubarakah. Something was revealed on a night which is mubarakah. Now look, there's 2 different meanings behind this. Ta'wil is simple of this. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil mubarakah. This was revealed on the night which is mubarakah. One of the 9 names in the law, Fatima's mubarakah. This is why when you go into the Old Testament, you'll read that from Mubarakah 12 princes come. Right? 12 princes come. What does that mean? That means Imamah comes from Fatima, in essence. Imamah itself comes from Fatima. Right? Anyway, going back. This night is Mubarakah. Why is it Mubarakah? Because it's unassuming. If you're not connected to Waliullah, Laylatul Qadr is the same as every other night. There's no difference there for you. Because you're connected, you feel it. The day of Ashura is unassuming. For everyone it's the same. People go to work, they come back. But for you it's different because the connection that you have of your heart to the heart of Baqiyatullah. Your heart is connected to the 12th Imam. This is why you notice some traditions say you wake up in the morning and you feel sad and you don't know why you're feeling sad. It's because your Imam is sad. Some days you wake up, you feel happy. You don't know why you're feeling happy. It's because your Imam is happy. There's a connection there. The Shia is always connected. Your Imam is like your father. He protects you like your father if only you allow him to protect you. The problem is that we don't allow him. If you allow him to protect you, there's nothing in this world that will take you down. Why? Because you're not without a warith in this world. As they say, you're not la warith in this world. You have somebody behind you who'll protect you. The condition though is you got to submit to his protection. You got to submit to his protection. To come back to what I was saying. Barakah is unassuming, one thing. So when I look at the Quran, it looks like every other book. So it's unassuming. Second thing though is when I take the Quran, there's guidance in there. Meaning what? There's khair in there, there's goodness in there. And that goodness is continuous. It's not just mahdud to one given time. It's continuous. So the Quran automatically has qualities. If I open the Quran up on any given page, you'll find a verse. That verse is beneficial for something. All of your illnesses and your diseases are found within that. There are verses in the Quran, for example, in Surah Yasin. If a blind man was to recite it, born blind, his eyesight would come back. Now you could read the entire Quran. That's not the case. The case is specifically if you go into a specific verse. It's like you go into a pharmacy and you have every single medicine. It's not going to cure you. But what you will find is that when you go into the Quran and the specific verses, for example, a person's poor, there's a verse in the Quran to make you rich. If a person wants, for example, power, there's a verse and every single thing that is found within the Quran. There are verses within the Quran for terminally ill people as well. So it's all in there. 6,600 verses. Because each one of these verses is not just a verse. In it is a spirit. And that when you recite it, what happens? That spirit goes from the tongue into the heart. So it's unassuming. You look at the Quran, 2,000 other books, one book from 2,000. What difference does it make? But no, there's barakah in there. That thing which is maybe 300-400 pages has so much barakah that it can change your entire life. This is why you notice Ahlul Bayt are also barakah and the nights of Muharram are also barakah. Within these nights, Sayyid al-Shuhada is taking you on a journey. This Majlis of Imam Hussein may just seem like a gathering, but in this gathering, there are thousands of malaika who are descending at any given time. When these malaika descend, and if there's one sincere person sitting in the room, when that sincere person cries, for the sake of that person, the malaika accept everyone's du'as in the Majlis. And that's just dua. So imagine how far they can take you if your heart is linked in this Majlis to Sayyid al-Shuhada. I give a request for you to put your phone on silence, please, everyone. Is that another salawat, please? One more salawat, please. And if you can move as far forward as possible, please. If you can stand up, just move as far forward. People are standing outside. Come as far as you can, thank you. One more salawat, please. And one more salawat, please. And one more salawat, please. Look, let me give you a story. In the time of Reza Shah, Reza Shah, the first king of the Pahlavi dynasty. In that particular time, this was basically on the cusp of when imperialism was collapsing. So British rule basically and European rule across the world. Ottoman Empire had collapsed by this stage. And the Khilafah had been taken away from the Ottomans. Firstly, they were symbolic, and then after that, Ataturk takes it away. Within the Islamic world, there are three movements that were taking place. One particular movement is that of Arab nationalism. You see it rise from Syria, and then it spreads. And its peak comes under the time of Gamal Abdel Nasser. The second thing that was rising was Turkish nationalism. So you noticed all of Islam's relics were being cleansed within Turkey. And you see a revival today of Islam within Turkey. But if you were to go back in those days, it wasn't there. The third thing that was happening was within Iran. There was a purification, a movement against Islam, hijab was being taken off and everything else. In that period of time, a man comes to the marja of the time, Ayatollah Abul Hasan Isfahani. When he comes into Najaf, he goes to Ayatollah Abul Hasan Isfahani. He says to him, he says, listen, Ayatollah, you're the marja of the time. You're the marja of the time. We're under threat. People are being stopped, they're being abused. Azaa is not, this azadari that we do is not wajib. Why don't you stop it for a while? Situation's not good. People are getting targeted. Women can't come out in hijab. People can't be religious. Adhan is being banned. Religion is not looked upon. Azadari is not wajib. Prayer is wajib. At least emphasize prayer. Forget the azadari. Move it away. We don't need these 10 days. On the day of Ashra, maybe quietly we'll have something in our house and that's it. Finish this off for now. Leave it for now. It's only mustahab. Ayatollah Abul Hasan Isfahani looks up at him. He says, you're right, it is only mustahab. But this is that mustahab which makes sure all of the other wajibat are secure. If this azadari goes, then all of Islam goes. I'm being told to ask you guys to come forward again, please. There's some space on that side. I've been asked to clear the doorway. If you clear the doorway, just come on this side where the elevator is. I think that will be a bit easier. So another salawat, please. There's some space behind the mimbar over here. My apologies, but if you can come around, there's still people who are trickling in and standing next to the shoes. Just come round slightly because... one more salawat, please. So azadari is that thing, azab Hussein is that thing, remembrance of Hussein is that thing that saves everything else. This is why if you go back to the very beginning what I said, as opposed to us giving lectures on all sorts of things, the most important thing is the azah. And in particular when the Imam himself is saying Amir al-Mu'mineen, one day when he's walking with Kumail, he says to Kumail, he says, Kumail, I can see a time when my Hussein is going to be killed here as they're walking through Karbala. He says, after that time, Kumail, this ummah will be faced with two things, dhalala and dhulamat, darkness and confusion. And this will spread. The only thing that protects you from this dhalala and dhulamat is azab Hussein. There is something in it that Allah has done. Allah has made it in such a way that this azab is like a light. On a dark night of dhalala and dhulamat, it guides you, it takes you. We haven't understood it. Because it's not something you can philosophize all the time. It's not something you can rationalize all the time. But remember this, the maqam of the qalb is higher than the aql. Aql indicates, right? It explains, but it doesn't allow you to taste it. You can explain honey with your intellect. You can explain things, you can't taste things. Tasting requires the tongue. Spiritual tasting requires the heart. Azab Hussein cannot be rationalized. You've got to feel it with your heart to come to realize. And this is why when you teach your children this, how do you teach them? You don't just teach them by sitting down and reading them a story. What you do is you physically take them by the hand, you take them to the Majlis of Imam Hussein, then you leave Sayyid al-Shuhada to do everything else. You're taking him to the door, or your daughter to the door of Ahlul Bayt. Then Ahlul Bayt take them as far as they want to take them. This is why in this day and age is important. In the last 10 years, how much have you seen of inhiraf, right? How much misguidance have... And you know the first pillar that people are attacking now? They're attacking the institution of Azadari. Because they know if we can attack this institution, if this falls, everything falls. So today you see it. And today you're seeing an attack. People are not talking about Hussein. People are bringing other world events to the same level as Karbala today. If other world events are brought to the level of Karbala, however bad that they are, Karbala loses its significance. Just remember this, you can never compare Karbala to anything else. The reason being is this. In the time of the 6th Imam, there were the Hassani Sayyids who were killed as well. Wasn't that a tragedy in itself? Every single Hassani Sayyid, their children were demolished, walls were dropped, children were killed, necks were chopped off. They were hungry, they were thirsty, they were killed in every direction. Look at the hadith and see. One Sayyidi Hassani was plastered into the walls, he was killed. Another Hassani Sayyid, the children were slaughtered. Even then the Imam didn't say, this is as bad as Karbala, or this is as bad as Karbala, or this is as bad as Karbala. Why is that? Why? Because your blood is your blood, it's Adam's blood. Hussein's blood is Damullah, it's Allah's blood. There's a difference between that who's Hussein and there's a difference between that which is me and you. If anybody compares Imam Hussein or Karbala to any other tragedy, they are not Shia, they've done khiyana towards Tashayyu. There's no difference in between you and a Sunni. We respect Sunnis, we'll respect you, no issue whatsoever. But the difference is this, Tashayyu begins within tabarra. I give tabarra on everything else first, and then I turn around and say Hussein is Hussein.
Husainiyat Zindabad! Husainiyat Zindabad! Yazidiyat Murdabad! Yazidiyat Murdabad!
This is not to belittle any other thing. It's not to belittle any other thing. The tragedy that took place in Shiism against, if you look, Idrisis, the annihilation of the Idrisis, descendants of Imam Hassan, in the time of Mutawakkil, in the time of Mansur al-Dawaniqi, in the time of Abul Abbas Safa, the guy's name is such, he was a butcher. Shiism has been faced, in Mazar-e-Sharif, 3,000 children were killed in one day. Women's stomachs were chopped open. Children were burnt. Fetuses were burnt by the Taliban. History is in front of you, 3,000 in one day. Still, we didn't compare that to Imam Hussein. We didn't compare that to Imam Hussein because Imam Hussein is unique. The day you begin to compare every other tragedy within Karbala, there's nothing special about Karbala then, is there? Why have the Imams emphasized this? Wasn't the 7th Imam poisoned? When Imam Hassan is poisoned and he's bleeding, he's coughing blood out, Imam Hussein comes in and begins to cry. What does Imam Hassan do? He turns around to him and he says, don't cry. La yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. Your day's going to be worse than this. Amir al-Mu'mineen has been hit on the head. Blood is pouring. Ali ibn Abi Talib, blood is pouring from his head. What does Amir al-Mu'mineen say? He doesn't turn around and say, my day is the worst day in history. He says, La yawmika ya Aba Abdullah. Zahra's rib is broken. Is any other tragedy in the world bigger than Zahra's tragedy? The biggest tragedy for a son is their mother's death. Ismatullah al-Kubra and a door and a wall. It's no bigger tragedy than that. Even Zahra didn't say that my tragedy is bigger than Hussein's. Understand this. As I say, I'm not belittling anything. Everything in its own place. But Hussein and Karbala in its own place. We gather here for Imam Hussein, we don't gather here for anybody else. You're not gathering here for me, I'm not gathering here for you. The reason why we come together is because of Imam Hussein. When your deceased pass away, the only reason people gather on the 40th and on the 3rd and everything else is because of the dhikr of Ali Muhammad, that's why they gather. If it's just about my granddad or my great-granddad, nobody's going to gather for that. Why are they going to gather for that for? The minute that I say I'm holding a majlis for my grandfather, meaning what? Meaning I'm holding a majlis of Hussein's, so thawab goes. The minute I say Hussein, everybody comes. Why does everybody come for Hussein for? There's a difference between Hussein. Hussein is alive today. Tragedies come and go. For 1,000 years, tragedies have been going on. Your nation has survived. Shiism today has survived under the pressure of tragedies. Nobody has been killed as much as you've been killed. Look at your history and see. In 1,400 years, the amount of Shia blood that's been shed is second to none. And this is why, even when a Shia stands up in trial and tribulation, on his forehead is Ya Hussein. Look at it and see. Look at any Shia in the world. When they stand up, when the time comes for the Shia to defend themselves, the first thing they say is Ya Hussein. Because they know it is only Hussein, nobody else. Look, there's a lot to say. And time is trickling fast. There's a lot to say. Ayatollah Ja'far, just to emphasize how important this is. After the birth of Imam Hussein, you find Rasulullah continuously emphasizing Karbala. I'll give you a hadith. Rasulullah takes Imam Hussein, puts him on his chest. Imam Hussein goes to sleep. Zahra comes, "Father, let me take the child. It might be heavy for you." He says, "No, leave him on my chest." Why? Because I can see a time that's going to come where horses are going to be trampling on his chest. Now Rasulullah emphasizes this. At every stage Rasulullah is crying. Whenever he sees Hussein, this is what's going to happen to Hussein. That's what's going to happen to Hussein. Why is he doing that? On the worldly level, he's preparing Imam Hussein. But on a batini level, he's telling all of you there's a significance that even Rasulullah is remembering before that time comes. Sheikh Ja'far Mujtahidi was one of the biggest urafa in the 20th century. He died about 20 years ago. He was one of the autad of the Imam. One of the 360 companions of the Imam. If I had time, which we may do tomorrow, I'll go into the stories about this man. How there are people alive today, living in Germany, who when a problem befell, he shows up out of nowhere. And not just for a Muslim, a Christian Catholic lady that when she called on Mary. In fact, if we have 2 minutes, let me give you the story. Sada salawat, please. Now this particular story, I don't think I've said it here, but certainly I've shared it in other places. There's a Dr. Tabatabai who used to live in Hamburg. This is going back maybe 1980s. Dr. Tabatabai was studying in Hamburg. He's still alive. You can ask him if you ever see him. He says he was studying at the time medicine in Hamburg. And he says that I get a letter from Ja'far Mujtahidi, where Ja'far Mujtahidi says, "Meet me at so-and-so place because I'm here." So he thought to himself, he said, Ja'far Mujtahidi is paralyzed. He was just in hospital. He doesn't even have a passport. He's sent me a letter to say that he's here. Anyhow, this man goes there and he sees Ja'far Mujtahidi standing on a mountain. And if you know Germany, when it snows, it's very difficult. It was winter time at that stage. So here, he comes forward and he says, "Sheikh Ja'far, you're on top of this mountain or this top of this hill. My car can't go there, there's too much snow." So Sheikh Ja'far says, he says, "Get out of the car." So he got out of the car. He says, "How do I get up?" He says, "Just say Ya Ali and walk up." Dr. Tabatabai says, I was in a dream at that stage. I didn't know what I was doing. I said Ya Ali, somehow I got up. Left the car there, I got up. He says, when I got up, Sheikh Ja'far accompanied me. He says, we went to a door. We knocked on the door. This lady comes out, elderly lady comes out, as if she recognized Sheikh Ja'far. Says he walks into the room, walks into the house, comes into the room. Dr. Tabatabai says, I saw a young boy lying there. Sheikh Ja'far Mujtahidi comes, he puts his hand on the rib of this young boy and he says, Ya Ali, get up. He says, the boy got up. The minute he got up, he says, I'm hungry, mum, bring me water, bring me food. Right? He ate. So Dr. Tabatabai turns around and he says, now this is the backstory to this. He says to the woman, he says, I'm absolutely confused. What's Ja'far Mujtahidi doing here? And why has he come to your house? Now listen to what she says. She says, up to yesterday, I'd lost hope in everything. My husband had died. I just have one son. This son, when he got cancer, everything that I lived for was over. She says, but I'm a religious woman. So I sat there one night and I appealed to the Lady Mary. I said, Mary, you've got to help me. Your son is the Masih. He can bring even the dead back to life. Bring my son back to life again. My son's dying here. Hospitals sent him home. He's got cancer, he's finishing, he's dying. What do I do? Says that I fell, in the sense that I fell asleep. In that state of doing tawassul to Mary, she says, I saw the Lady Mary come towards me. And I said, you've got to do something. She says, I can't do anything. Says, why? Says, because Sahib Amr today is in the family of Zahra. Today, the Nabi of this time is Muhammad. And at that moment, they say, she says, Lady Mary went and another lady came with her. When I saw this other lady, my heart started to melt. I understood what it was, who she was. All of a sudden, my heart started to melt. So I say, please help me. Please help me. So at that time, this lady says, she says that in this time, my son, the Mahdi, is the wali of the time, is Hujjatullah. You call upon him. She says, I began to call these names because I learned these names. Ya Muhammad, Ya Fatima, Ya Mahdi, Ya Muhammad, Ya Fatima, Ya Mahdi, Ya Muhammad, Ya Fatima, Ya Mahdi. All of a sudden, they say that this Noor came and he turned around and he says, don't worry, my servant is going to come tomorrow and he's going to cure you. The reason why I didn't flinch when this old man walked in, because I saw him in my dream. But there's one issue that I don't understand. Says what? He says, I was told the name Muhammad, Fatima and Mahdi, but this man said another name. When he put his hand on the back of my son, he said something else. What did he say? Dr. Tadabatawai says, he said, Ya Ali, but let me ask him what the story is. So at that moment, he goes back. He says, Sheikh Jafar, have you got a passport? He says, look, don't ask me these questions. He goes, how did you just show up in the middle of nowhere? How did you know this? He says, don't ask me these questions. He said, what did you say to wake up this child? He says, look, I already have Isma Adam, but I know that whenever I use it, I like to say, Ya Ali. He says, Ya Ali, the kid gets up, has soup, and is recovered. Dr. Tabatabai is because it's surreal. We parted ways. Ja'far Mujtahidi left his way. We left our way. There are people like that on earth. And you notice that every marja in his time, Atullah Marashi Najafi, Atullah Gul Paigani, all of the big maraja of the time. He used to be in Mashhad, then he moved to Qum. They would come, Atullah Kashmiri, they would come to see Ja'far Mujtahidi. Now Ja'far Mujtahidi wasn't an alim. His hair was down to there and his beard was here. And he would sit there. One day when he was in the hospital, because what he would do, he would take the burdens of people onto himself. There's a cause and effect, there's a reality. When he would cure somebody, he would say, Allah, give this to me and let this guy have shifa. So one day when he went to the hospital, he was lying there. And as he was lying, he was in a bad state. So he could hear a young man crying from the other side. He says, lift me up and take me. Took him to the next room, Bimaristani Gul Paigani. He says he went into the hospital, which is known as the hospital of Gul Paigani. He went into the other room. When he went into the other room, he says to the young man, he says, young man, what's your name? The man replied, he said, my name's Ali. He says, it can't be that an Ali is sick. He says, Ya Ali. Next day when the doctors came, one of the doctors walked in. He says, old man, you're a fraud. He says, why? He says, well, you cured this man. If you can cure him, why don't you cure yourself? Right? He says, listen, it's the Mashiach of Allah that I stay the way that I am. But if you ask about Ya Ali, my one Ya Ali can cure the entire hospital if I wanted to. Right? This is a man. This is a man. And this man died approximately 20 odd years ago. Now he says something. If it was anybody else, I would have said question mark. But he says something. He said something to the ulama once. He said this to the ulama. He says, one day I was watching with my eyes on the day of Ashura. He says, I saw the malakut of Karbala on the day of Ashura, meaning what? The batin of Karbala, malakut of Karbala. He says, when I saw the malakut of Karbala, I realized that Rasulullah and Fatima Zahra were there in Karbala as Hussein was fighting alone. They were encouraging him from the back. They were saying, Hussein, go and fight. Hussein, go and fight. Let it not be that Badr takes place and Allah removes this. Let it not be that you're not shaheed. Your shahadas is important, Hussein. Hussein, fight. So they were there. Amir al-Mu'mineen was there. He says Rasulullah was there. Fatima was there. From the beginning of his birth to the end of his shahadat, you found Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt were there side by side with Imam Hussein. That's how important Karbala is. Therefore, never compare anything to Karbala. Karbala is Karbala. Nothing else. The ground of Karbala has no comparison. Yes, people say Kullu Yawmin Ashura and all that. That's not a hadith, by the way. There's a poem that poets have made. There's no hadith called Kullu Yawmin Ashura or Kullu Ardin Karbala. The hadith is La Yawmika Yawmika Ya Aba Abdullah. Right? Just bear this in mind. Yes, it's a good poem, it's nice, but it's not a hadith. It contradicts actually certain traditions. It contradicts the idea that there's no day like yours, Hussein. Contradicts that. So be vigilant. What you say, be vigilant of how you say it. Look, that brings an end to our discussion. There's a lot more that I wanted to raise. Hopefully we can raise it tomorrow. Given the strength, inshallah we'll raise it. Much to say. Ma'rifat of Ahlul Bayt is like an ocean. When we go deep inside of it, we'll see. It's not claiming to be deep into the Ma'rifah. The thing is, Ma'rifah comes from Hussein itself. Our job is to do dhikr of Hussein. In the way that you zikr, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. That Ya Allah, when it goes into the tongue, it goes into the heart. When it goes into the heart, it's like a tree that opens up. Dhikr of Hussein is like that. We're here to remember Imam Hussein so the tree of wilayah grows in our heart. Right? Bear this in mind. Look, let me start off here. The discussion today is going to be a long one, but you're ready tonight. It starts off here. Sayyidul Shuhada sitting there with Sayyidah Zainab. And as he's sitting there with Sayyidah Zainab, they say Imam Hussein got up, he finishes conversation, a letter comes. Imam reads this letter. He's been summoned, he's been called. Where's he being called? Marwan Hakam is calling him. Imam Hussein slowly gets up quietly, is about to go out. His sister intercepts him. Says, brother, where are you going? The reply comes, I've been called to the court of Marwan Hakam. Sister, for a minute, freezes. Imam Hussein looks towards and says, look, don't worry. This is not my qatlgah. I'm not going to be killed here. Sister though. You know her heart. She turns around and quickly she runs as Imam Hussein is going. First person she comes to, Ali Akbar. Says, Ali Akbar, your father is going alone. Please, go, protect my Hussein. Why? When I look at Hussein, I remember my mother Fatima Zahra. Please go. Quickly she calls, Abbas, what is it? She says, Hussein is going alone. Let it not be that Hussein is gharib. Let it not be, go with him as well. Abbas, Jalal. Abbas gets up, he goes, Banu Hashim, all of the 18 young men of Banu Hashim. He says, Banu Hashim, your father Hussein is going by himself, your brother Hussein is going by yourself, your uncle Hussein is going by yourself. All of us are going to go with Imam Hussein. So all of Banu Hashim now begin to walk. Here you can see the Hashimi Jalal when it's going with Imam Hussein. And as Imam Hussein comes to the door, what does Imam Hussein say? He says, Abbas, stop outside here. Let me go and let me have a conversation with Marwan. But Abbas, if my voice is elevated, at that moment you come in. Imam Hussein walks in. And as he walks in, conversation begins with Marwan. Marwan realizes Hussein is not going to give bayah. Marwan indicates to the person, kill him, chop his neck off. When he does this, Imam Hussein looks up. He says, oh son of so-and-so, are you going to come and kill me? Elevated voice. The minute is elevated, tradition says, Abbas is outside. The minute Abbas hears this, he goes to try and open the door. He realizes the door's not opening. He says, Ali Akbar, get out of the way. Give me a second. He comes and he shoves the door with his shoulder. The door collapses. Abbas walks in, takes his sword out. The minute the sword comes out, all of Banu Hashim's swords come out. The minute that he walks in, he says, Mawla, give me the hukum. Whose neck should I take off first? And at that moment, Imam Hussein, old brother, comes forward, puts his hand on the chest of Abbas. He says, Abbas, this is the city of my grandfather. Don't kill anyone today. Go on. Abbas puts his sword away. Imam Hussein begins to walk, comes back to Sayyidah Zainab. He just says one thing. He says, this city, we can't live in it anymore. We've got to go now. They're after my blood. He says that to Sayyidah Zainab. He then says, Zainab, let's get ready to go. Start preparing everybody. Start preparing everybody. Everybody's now being prepared. Nighttime comes. Hussein now, most painful moment for him is that he's leaving the city of his grandfather. 3 widars take place. I'm going very fast because there's a place I want to get to. First place Imam Hussein goes to the grave of his grandfather. And on the grave of his grandfather, he lies there and he's kissing the grave and he's taking the dirt from the grave, the soil from the grave. and he's there talking to his grandfather. In the middle of that, Hussein begins to cry. And as he begins to cry, his eyes close and he goes to sleep. What does he see? He sees his grandfather coming forward and he says, son, come to me, Hussein. And at that moment he says, Hussein, you've got to go to Karbala. He says, okay, grandfather, but tell me what's going to happen. He says, what's going to happen is that you're going to be killed. He says, that's accepted, but tell me what's going to happen to my sisters. What does he reply? He replies and says, Inna Allah sha'a yarahunna sabaya. For your sisters, they're going to be enchained. They're going to become prisoners. And at that moment when he says that Zainab is going to become prisoned and she's going to be tied, at that moment Hussein begins to cry. And he's crying so much in his sleep at that moment that people come and they ask him, Mawla, what happened? He looks up and he says, my Zainab is going to be imprisoned. Hussein now gets up. Second place he goes to Imam Hassan's grave. He goes to give farewell to his brother Hassan. Now both of these times when he goes to his father and he goes to his grandfather and he goes to his brother, he marches like a military man marches, chest out, he's walking like a man does, walking like this. They say though the third wida that he gives is the most painful. This time Hussein's not marching. Hussein's running like a child runs to his mother. So Hussein goes running to a broken grave. That grave that even today, there's no one to even light a candle on that grave. But today people are going to Karbala, right? When you go to Karbala, what do you see? Ayatollah Sistani says, your Maraja says something. It made me cry when I heard it. You know what he said? He said, don't look at the gold and the silver on the grave of Imam Hussein. No, the body is still broken today. Body is still broken. This is why on the day of judgment, when everyone comes onto Mahshar, Allah will say something. He will say, angels, you go to Karbala and bring my Habib to me, but be careful, his body is broken. Even if you go to Karbala today, you still see that there are lights there. You go to Najaf today, there's still lights there. Whichever shrine you go, there's lights. At least somebody's there to turn on a light. Today, Qabr of Zahra is still broken. And there's no one to even light a candle on that grave. Imam Hussein goes. They say when Imam Hussein gets there like a child, he puts himself and he hugs the grave. He says, Mother, take me back again to you. Take me in your arms. Like, I can't recite the conversation that takes place, nor would you be able to take it. I know what you can take, you wouldn't be able to take this. Today is Imam Hussein coming to Karbala. Slowly I want to move to that particular place. Time is restricted, inshallah. The rest of it we'll talk tomorrow about. They say Imam Hussein's caravan is moving. Caravan leaves Medina, Mecca, Hajj takes place. Imam Hussein moving towards Kufa. Hur comes, intercepts Imam Hussein. They say a time comes when Sayyid al-Shuhada comes and he stops in a particular land. His sister comes running. His sister says, brother, we need to get out of here. Why? He says, I can smell your blood coming from the soil of I can smell your blood coming from the soil. I can smell it, I can smell your blood coming. Right? Up to the time of the 6th Imam, Sadat had a special smell coming from their blood. 6th Imam took it away in time of Taqiyya. But Hussein ibn Ali's blood? He says, I can smell something. Smell is coming from your blood. Let's move away from here. Sayyid al-Shuhada says, no, this is the place that we're going to stay. But Imam Hussein moves forward. Some of Banu Asad were there. He looks up at them, says, what's this place? They reply, Shattul Farat. Somebody replies, says, Ghazariya. Somebody replies, says Nainawa. He says, no, there's another name for this. There was a Bedouin Arab who was moving, Badun who was moving. Comes towards him and he says, brother, can you tell me what this place is? He says, yes, we've heard in our riwayat, our elders would say, this place is known as Karbin wa Bala. At that moment, Imam Hussain says, Abbas, lay the tents. This is the place now that until the day of judgment, we're going to stay. You know what the tradition says? At that moment, he goes to Banu Asad and he says to Banu Asad, he says, I want to buy this land and I want to give you double. Some traditions say 60,000 dirhams he gives. He says, I'm buying this land and I'm giving it back to you. But I'm giving it back to you on certain conditions. If they say, what are the conditions? He replies and he says, if ever after my death, if ever somebody comes from my zawar, if my za'ir comes here, just say to them, Hada qabr al-Husayn. He says, let them know that this is my qabr. But then after that, Imam Hussain says something very strange. He says, what is it? He says, if ever my gharib za'ir comes, if ever my madloom za'ir comes, if ever my faqir za'ir comes, make sure you give them some water, make sure you give them some food, make sure you give them some shelter. Today, millions of people go to Karbala. Not one person is hungry, not one person is thirsty. Why is that? Because Imam Hussain said nobody should come hungry. I was hungry. Nobody should be hungry in Karbala. I was thirsty. Nobody should be in Karbala. But Imam Hussain does one more thing. He says, Abbas, whenever my zawar come, greet them. The one who doesn't have arms stands there and says, welcome to the city of Hussain. Third thing though that takes place. You know what the third thing is? Now he comes to Banu Asad and he says, after Yazid army kills me, I want you to do something. I want you to just come and bury our bodies. Bury our bodies. But at that moment, Imam Hussain doesn't stop. He says, you go bring your women, I want to talk to them. Women come in hijab, covering their faces. Why? Because it's Hussain. As they come forward, he turns around and he says, I am the son of Zahra. If tomorrow your men are scared, when you come to get water, just put some dirt over our bodies to cover our bodies. Hussain doesn't stop there either. You know what Sayyid al-Shuhada now says? Sayyid al-Shuhada goes forward and he says something. He says, now bring me your children as well. I want to talk to your children. Small children come forward. He looks up and he says, children, do you know who I am? They say, no. He says, you know that 4-year-old girl who's standing there? Her name is Sakina. I'm the father of Sakina. If your mother and father feel scared, when you're playing, just come and put some dirt on our body. Just put some dirt on our body. Allah knows what happens after that. But they say when the 13th of Muharram comes, there were certain bodies which were lying there. One son comes, his arms were tied behind his back and his feet were tied. And as he comes, he says something. He says, that is the broken body of Ali Akbar. He says, that is the scattered body of Qasim. He says, over there Ali Ashra was buried. Then he turns around and he says, Banu Asad, help me bury all of these bodies. Eventually a time comes when he says, now move away. Says, why? He says, because this is the body of my uncle. My uncle had a lot of ghaira. My uncle wouldn't able to take it. If all of you are there, move to one side, comes forward, takes his abba, puts it on the ground. When he comes to the farad, he begins to cry. Why? Abbas's body was lying there. When he lifted the knee, the hip collapsed. When he lifted the rib, the shoulder collapsed. He takes all of the pieces and he brings them together. He takes them and he begins to dig. But they say, when he comes to the body of his father, what do you see? Cut body. Head was cut. Body was completely bruised. Imam al-Zaman says, salam on my Jud, whose right rib came out of the left side and the left rib came out of the... Matam Hussain.
کربلا آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی رشک جنت ہے یہ سرزمین وفا خون معصوم سے اس کو سینچا گیا سو رہا ہے یہاں دل برے فاطمہ آنکھ بھر آئی جب اس کی یاد آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی کم نہیں ہے حرم سے یہ دشت ستم آنکھ نیچے رہے سر رہے سب کے ہم سر کھلے یہاں سے گزرے ہیں اہل حرم گھٹ کیا کھاتی روتی سکی نہ گئے کربلا کربلا آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی ذرہ ذرہ ہے ایک داستان علم خون ہی خون بکھ راہتا باہرم اے دل ناتبا رکھ سنبھل کے قدم سیدہ یہاں سے ہے پابرہ نہ گئے کربلا 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 آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی رنج و غم جن کے گزرے نہ تھے پاس سے 3 دن تک تڑپتے رہے پیاس سے شاہ دیکھا کیے حسرت و یاس سے ہر کلی باغ زہرا کی کم لا گئے کربلا 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 آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی شام سے جب کہ پلٹا ہوا قافلہ منزلیں مارتا پہنچا کر بو بلا گر کے ناکے سے زینب نے دی صدا قید سے چھوٹ کے بھیا بہن آ گئے کربلا 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 آ گئی کربلا 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 آ گئی تھا یہی میرے اکبر کو نیزہ لگا ہلکے اصغر یہیں تیر سے تھا چھڑا
ہاں اسی خاک پر تھا سر کٹا یہ زمین سارا کنبہ میرا کھا گئے کربلا حسین 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 دل میں غم حسین بسا ہوئے ہیں ہم دل میں غم حسین بسا ہوئے ہیں ہم دل میں غم حسین بسا یوں ساری کائنات پہ چھائے ہوئے ہیں ہم دل میں غم حسین بسا دل میں غم حسین بسا ہوئے ہیں روشن کیے جو دشت بلا میں حسین نے روشن کیے جو دشت بلا روشن کیے جو دشت بلا میں حسین نے وہ سب چراغ دل میں جلائے ہوئے ہیں دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں دل میں حیرت سے ہم کو دیکھ رہی ہے بلندیاں حیرت سے ہم کو دیکھ رہی ہے بلندیاں حیرت سے ہم کو دیکھ رہی ہے بلندیاں باطل کا ہر نشان مٹائے ہوئے ہیں دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں اب دل نہیں ہے سینے میں ایک آفتاب ہے نہیں ہے سینے میں ایک آفتاب ہے اب دل نہیں ہے سینے میں ایک آفتاب ہے سینے سے کس کے غم کو لگائے ہوئے ہیں ہم دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں دل میں غم حسین بسائے بچ بچ کے کیوں نہ گزرے زمانے کی گردشیں، گزرے زمانے کی گردشیں، بچ بچ کے کیوں نہ گزرے زمانے کی گردشیں، عباس کے علام کو اٹھائے ہوئے ہیں ہم، دل میں
غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں ہم،
دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں ہم، دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں ہم، روزے پہ سیدہ کے یہ زینب کے بہن تھے، سیدہ کے یہ زینب کے بہن تھے، روزے پہ سیدہ کے یہ زینب کے بہن تھے، ماں اٹھو کے دور سے آئے ہوئے ہیں ہم، دل میں غم حسین بسائے ہوئے ہیں
کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم عباس کا، 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 آتا ہے زخمی علم عباس کا، آتا ہے زخمی علم عباس کا، کرتے ہیں ماتم حرم 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 عباس کا، ہائے یہ بچی کون ہے، یہ تو سکینہ لگتی ہے، ہائے یہ بچی کون ہے، ہائے یہ بچی کون ہے، یہ تو سکینہ لگتی ہے، ہائے ہائے یہ بچی کون ہے، یہ تو سکینہ لگتی ہے، چھائی ہے جس پر بے بسی، یہ تو سکینہ लगती है हाय
ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है।
आती है मक्तल की तरफ
आती है मक्तल की तरफ
देखा है क्यों सोए नजफ क्या इसका दादा है अली क्या क्या इसका दादा है अली ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची लगती है हाय आती है जो रोती हुई सदमों से जा खोती हुई पढ़ती हुई ना दे अली पढ़ती हुई ना दे अली ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय सकीना लगती है हाय क्यों रो के जा देती है ये क्यों सिस किया लेती है ये क्यों क्या मर गया इसका कोई क्या क्या मर गया इसका कोई ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है। कानों से क्यों खून है रवा कानों से क्यों खून है रवा उफ ये तमाचों के निशान ये जुल्म और ये कम सनी ये जुल्म और ये कम सनी ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है आती है जो रोती हुई सदमों से जा खोती हुई पढ़ती हुई ना दे شاعری ہے جس پر بے بسی ہے تو سکینہ لگتی ہے ہائے یہ بچی کون ہے یہ تو سکینہ
صلی اللہ علیہ یا ابا عبداللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم یا ابن امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیکم یا ابن سید الوسیم، السلام علیکم سارے شہداء کربلا خصوصاً سیدی مولا ابوالفضل عباس ابن امیر المؤمنین، السلام علیکم یا قاسم ابن حسن مسلم ابن عقیل ہانی ابن عروہ حبیب ابن مظاہر حر شہید ریاحی، السلام علیکم جمیعاً ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ السلام علیکم یا غریب الغرباء، السلام علیکم یا معین الضعفاء، السلام علیکم شمس الشموس، السلام علیکم یا المدفون بعزتہ سلطان ابو الحسن یا علی ابن موسی الرضا، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ السلام علیکم یا صاحب العصر والزمان، علمان علمان علمان، السلام علیکم یا شریک القرآن، السلام علیکم یا مظہر الایمان، السلام علیکم یا الکعبۃ الایمان، السلام علیکم امام زماننا ھذا عجل تعالی فرجک وسع اللہ تعالی مخرجک وظہورک وجل من سارک و اوانک، السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ۔ صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد